What it is, y'all, it's your old boy Pilk, and of course we need to talk today about, well, you saw the title. This is another tier list. You guys seem to really like that. But this time we're talking about the general pool. Now, initially I intended this be a part one of the kind of reroll redo, so to speak. But as I found out, because I haven't done a reroll in a really long time, a lot of these units are actually not available in the reroll. But being that we are having some new units coming soon. There's going to be a bunch of different things regarding that. I did want to cover this in its own right because I think it's a very important thing to cover. But nevertheless, as far as this particular event is concerned, or this particular gacha is concerned, this is, I still think, very pertinent, very important information that especially new players need to know. So we'll cover each one specifically, whether or not it's available in the reroll gacha, but to kind of show you the difference real quick, and I won't spend too much time on this, as it pertains specifically to the regular gacha, which is actually, believe it or not, different than the reroll gacha, we have the following units. I'm trying to calm my jets, because I'm actually a little upset about this, I will not lie. I think this is one of the dirtiest things in the game at the moment. But if you go down here to the normal gacha, we have tons of units up for grabs. Tons of them. And you'll see it goes, the regular Bell unit that you kind of get just natively in the game all the time. Sword Princess Eyes, Mikoto, and then you immediately go into Chloe, Lunar, and Anya. And those three units specifically, along with Ottarl, and Amid, are not available in the reroll. The reroll is only the core units that were launched with the game. This is something that desperately needs to be updated. It is, probably one of the worst atrocities in this game that you don't get to pull from the full general pool on your reroll. I think that's dirty, personally. Maybe it's a hot take, but they don't add enough units to the general pool to really justify not giving that to new players. It's foul, frankly, and I really hope they update that soon. But nevertheless, I'll kind of show you the reroll pool here. So this is the reroll that I did recently. We'll kind of cover this as a full reroll guide coming up shortly. But like I said, I consider this to be a part one of that. But check out the pool here. Notice how much smaller it is. You get into the SSRs like right here, whereas the UR pool is like down below this. I don't know the exact number of units. I'm not going to count them out. But Bell, Eyes, Mikoto, and then immediately goes into Ryu. And a lot of these units simply have not held up. Like, we really talked at length in the original reroll guide about Tione being a great unit, and I think she's really fallen a lot, as you'll see here in what we're going to talk about shortly. It's truly unfortunate. But honestly, I'm going to be completely frank here. This is something that they desperately need to kind of work on, and I'll explain a little bit more as we get into the tier list here. So as we've cleared that up, some of these units are not going to be available on reroll, and I'll kind of address those. And do apologize in advance because I'm working off memory for most of these units, but a lot of these units either I've tried them in Uncharted and they just haven't been all that great, or whatever. But I'm going to start with Adventures here, and I'm going to start with Eyes. Now, Eyes is a unit that at launch was very scary. She was like easily S tier. She was, just an all-around great unit. It's tough because as far as wind units go, I think she gets like a really bad rep when you compare her to like Bell, the Festa units. We have a ton of amazing wind units in the game, and because of that, she's like one of the last units you'd probably consider using as an adventurer. But she's a good attacker. She's going to get you far in the early portion of the game. It's really hard, and I know this is going to be a hot take. Just going off the general pool. I'm not going to include Festa units. I'm not going to include time-limited units. I'm just going to say, as far as just value for the regular gacha, I think she's an A tier for me. She was really valuable in the early portion of the game, and I think for new players, she's going to be phenomenal. I think she's going to run out of steam, and I don't think she's one that I would take much beyond level 80. In fact, I think mine is still level 70, if I'm completely frank with you guys. She's definitely not a level 100 candidate, but I do think for early players, and as far as just this pool goes, as far as wind units go, and as far as just general attackers go, I think she's going to be a good unit for most players, frankly. That brings me to Aisha. And the only reason she's not D tier is she has handled Uncharted a few times. She's been really good, but all electric units at this point just kind of suck. And Most electric units are probably going to wind up being D tier, if I'm completely frank here. But honestly, I just I have a real hard time recommending any electric unit in the general pool to anybody because they just aren't going to go very far. The good news is both these units are actually available on the reroll, so that kind of gives you a good idea of how to utilize these units. Anya, however, is not, but Anya is undoubtedly S tier just in the general pool. I love this unit. She's good for like everything, but unfortunately just not available on reroll, and that pains me because she's one of those units that I think you should really wait for. Hot take, whatever. I just really like this unit. All right, so I won't lie. I did have to do a little bit of research on this unit because I have not used her in forever. Osfi. So Osfi's great. She will increase damage for if you're poisoned, if you're poisoned. If the opponent is poisoned, if the opponent is burned, she will increase or decrease their physical and magic attacks. She's really good support. I just haven't used her in forever because the Win team, unfortunately, is just one of the better teams. I say unfortunately. Win team is really just one of the better teams out there right now, or has been, I guess. It really is. It's just an amazing team. But there's so many units in there. But I think for an early player, you're going to get a lot out of her if you use her skills accordingly. However, she's not going to go the distance very long in the game. I think she's going to get outclassed pretty quickly when we get, if you're able to roll on some of the Festa units again, if they do a Festa only banner or something like that, she's going to get outshined very fast. And just because of that, I'm going to put her D tier. Now, I know early game she's going to be amazing, but I think she just runs out of steam so fast. And she is support. She's not an attacker, and I don't think she can really solo any real events like that. In fact, I haven't tried her in a really long time. So in mine's still level 70, so we probably would have to give her a better try. Maybe she deserves a higher rank. Maybe she's like A class, not including Festas. But personal opinion, I'm sure some people are going to put her lower. Some people might be mad and want me to put her higher. That's kind of where I put her. Now, Belle. Man, Belle is such a mixed bag because most of us get Belle pretty early and you can get them for tickets all the time. Value for tickets. If this were a reroll guide, I'd put him in D tier. No questions asked. I absolutely would. But you max him out so quickly. He's available all over the place. No, I did have to double check something. And initially, back during the anniversary, we got some missions that allowed you to just max out Belle for the heck of it. He kind of comes from everywhere, but he's got his uses. He's really useful in a pinch. I'm going to put him B tier. Now, if you're re-rolling, this dude is complete D tier. Do not sit on a re-roll with this guy because you're going to get him all over the place. But just because he doesn't insta-max anymore, like i.e., we used to get him MLB just for the heck of it, like during first anniversary. But since that mission is no longer available to new players, hopefully it does become available again during the second anniversary, but since it's not available right now, I have to put him a little bit higher because he does have great utility. He's just a good jack of kind of all trades and a good entry-level unit. He will solo a lot of events, he has a lot of support, and he just works well. We've used him in Uncharted Battlefield a lot. I'm going to justify this to the end of the earth, but I think he is solid B tier. I don't think he's higher, though, personally. But if you're re-rolling, don't sit on this guy. And I'll cover it in the re-roll guide. There's so many better units out there. Now, trash. Garbage. Probably one of the worst units, maybe aside from, I don't know, I've used Finn for a few things. I'm going to go throw Finn down here in D tier as well. The electric units are garbage. I don't like them. Is one of the worst teams in the game, and I talked about that with Aisha. Aisha. I'm sorry. I just think most of the electric units are pretty bad. And you can't use them for any... I couldn't... With an level 80 Finn, we had trouble clearing, one of the early stages in Uncharted Battlefield. He's just not great. Fight me in the comments. I just don't like him. Cassandra. So once again, I had to do a quick bit of research on Cassandra because I've not used her in forever. Now, for the water team, she's really good because she will reduce the endurance of foes. She'll actually increase your magic. She does healing. She just can't solo any events. She's solid support, though. I still think Osby's a little bit better, but I don't think she deserves C tier. I think she deserves a little better than that. I'm going to put her B tier just because of what she does. Now, once again, if you have a lot of the time-limited units, you probably never use this unit. You've probably forgotten this unit exists. I, for one, did. But that is that. Chloe. Love this unit. All these new general pool units, total S tier material. Now, once again, we're not talking compared to like Festas. We're not talking compared to time limiteds. We're just, I know I did just compare her to time limiteds, but I'm trying to make this as fair as I can to just this pool. And I think Anya and Chloe, and I'm even going to put Lunar up there. Absolute S tier. Absolute, complete S tier. Phenomenal units. Phenomenal teams. You'll use these all the time. Every single one of these units, with one exception that's an S tier, can solo some of the later events in Uncharted, at least as of current. The exception of that, and I'm going to throw them out there early, even though I know it's kind of out of order, would be Ottarl. Love this unit. Man, is he good. So, here's the deal. He cannot solo that the later versions of Uncharted because he's a low damage unit. But as far as tanks go, here's an example. For all the Festas, for all the time limits, for everything we have out there right now, you will undoubtedly see this guy all the time in PvP. He's easy enough to max out. In fact, I have my own quandary at the moment. We were talking about this on stream on Sunday night, and I still haven't made a decision. My Ottarl needs 2 bonds to completely max out. And I think he's one of my early candidates to go up to level 100 next. I got to see what's dropping later, what's dropping soon here in the game, but I think he's definitely one of my candidates, and I have the gems to do it. However, if we kind of go back here, my Artemis needs 2 bonds, and those same 20 gems will get her one step closer. And she's level 100. She is awesome. I can't decide between the two. And she is one of the top tier Festas in the game. So if there's any indication how good Ottarl is, that's my current quandary. Quite the Quizabook, if you understand my reference to that. And no, I think like 4 people ever that watch this in the history of ever, 18 years from now, will ever understand that reference. So, are there any other S tiers? Not in adventures that I can think. Philvis is awesome. Just based on the general pool, Philvis is another S tier. I like her a lot. She's not going to solo Uncharted, at least not the later levels, but she definitely holds her own, and you will often see her, just like Ottarl, in PvP from time to time. Not nearly as often, not on the same level, but as far as just this pool goes, she is amazing. Now, another defense unit that I think is absolute just dog water is Gareth. Hate this unit. I have him maxed. He's useless. He used to be a really awesome tank when the game first started, but he has been so insanely outclassed, it's not even funny. But here's my one caveat to this. I can't put him on the same level as Bet, because Bet is just that bad. In fact, Finn isn't that bad. Bet is just that bad. So, fair's fair. Fair's fair. There, I think that fixes the problem. Fight me in the comments. I think that totally fixes the problem. So, Harihime. Okay, so as far as healers go, as far as what she does, just out of the general pool, I know most people use Harmonia over her nowadays. But if you don't have Harmonia, if you're early game, Harihime is going to be a huge asset. Her ult absolutely will give you an insane boost. She has been insanely outclassed by Festas, but if you're just playing the early portion of the game, I think she is absolutely awesome. Man, Eyes is kind of in a class of her own right now, isn't she? I think there should be more A tiers. That's rugged. Am I being too? No, I'm not being too generous. I think Haruhime, she might be A tier, but I really like her. I still use her to this day. I think her alt is absolutely worth it. I think she's phenomenal. Another S tier, and I'm gonna say this only because she got a huge boost recently. I think she definitely can't hold her own against Festas. I think she's been a little outclassed. You know what? Just to make her happy. That's just to make her happy. I think the adventure, now there's two Leafias. There's the adventure Leafia and there's the assist Leafia. We're specifically talking about the adventure Leafia, even though it's gonna be hard to tell later on in the thing. But nevertheless, I think the adventure Leafia would be happy with that ranking just because she's there with eyes. She probably deserves S tier, but you know, we gotta make the character happy, right? Happy. I'm not gonna complete that sentence. Nevertheless, she got a really good buff recently. So did the actual Winnie assist. We'll talk about her when we get to her. But I think she absolutely probably deserves S tier, but fight me. So next up is Mikoto. And I'm going to put Mikoto A tier only compared to the other units in the general pool. Let me kind of explain my ranking on that. Number one, I had to go back and do a little research on her just because I only have her level 70. I haven't used her in so long. But she is a speed unit, and you kind of have to compare her in realm of other speed units. Now, while she doesn't really boost the rest of the team as much, actually, I double-checked that. I think she's a self-booster. Actually, no. I take that back. Her ult will boost everybody, so that's really good. Her skill 1 will actually set up a field which decreases movement speed. Or, I'm sorry, yeah. I think it's her skill 1. One of the skills will decrease movement speed. I think it's skill 1, and then skill 2 will increase damage to those units in the field. Plus, you'll get increased technique rate for all units while her ult is in effect for several seconds. It is so good. Just because she's been so outclassed damage-wise, I just don't use her that often. But maybe I should give her a second shot. Maybe I should give her more shine. I really need to test this unit out, and we'll cover each one of these units one by one. That'd just be a thing. Another unit I have to kind of research for a moment. 9 Hells Reveria. I have not used this unit in so long. But once again, with all the time limiteds, Festas, things like that, she is a support, so don't expect her to be like an incredible DPS. Here's the thing, though. She'll burn your opponent when she does her ult. She decreases movement speed. She increases endurance to all your units. She is phenomenal as far as an early unit goes. But I just don't use her very often at all. I really just don't use her very often. Because of her utility, because of her utility, I really want to put her low in the list. But because of what she does, I think early players will really enjoy this unit. I'm going to put her B tier with other supports. Now, she does what she lacks in utility. I think she makes up for what she lacks in damage, she makes up for in utility, I guess I should say. So overall, I got to put her there. I can't really put her higher. I think she's on par with Cassandra. Now, I know Bell should be higher. I know he should be. But you're going to max that unit so early. So, you know what? We did it for Leafia. We're going to move Bell. Why not? Got to be fair. You know, got the fanboy and the fangirl. And the darling of everyone's affection. There you go. Everyone should be happy now. I hope. Comments won't be, but that's the thing. Okay, Ryu. Here's a unit I've attempted to use recently. She does not produce a lot of damage, but once again, she is a speed unit. You can't expect her to solo things, but she has soloed events for us in the past. She has a decent amount of utility, and the whole point in a speed unit is to boost everybody's technique gauge. That's really what they're there to do. They're kind of a support with a mix of, like, not really DPS, but, you know, I mean, speed. That's kind of what they do. Like, it's all in the name, right? All right. So she increases movement speed to herself. She increases technique gauge on her ult, and she increases the special move accumulation rate. I'm going to put her there. Now, I know I said we didn't have a lot of A tiers, but I think she deserves this. And the main reason I think she deserves this is because she has soloed a lot of units, even though she's a speed unit. And most other speed units, looking at you, Bet, fall apart under the smallest amount of resistance. She can stand her own in some events. She's kind of falling off now, but that's just because the win team is so incredibly good when it comes to time limiteds and when it comes to Festas especially. But I'm going to give her due. I think just as far as the general pool goes, she is fantastic. Now, I'm going to go Tiona over Tione, and she's going to be there with all the other electric units with the exception of Aisha. I think Aisha just outclasses all the other electric units. That's the only reason D tier isn't just electric units. She's never really like handled her own for me. She's never really kind of like been all that useful for me. So, you know, that just kind of be a thing, you know? I would love to tell you she's better, but I just don't think so. And that brings me to our final adventurer, Tiona. Tiona was one of those early units of the game that we put S tier. But honestly, I can't do that anymore. In fact, she's fallen so far, I find her just completely useless in this day and age. But I'm going to give her a fair shot. I'm going to cross-reference this. Okay, so I cross-referenced this, and I'm going to say she deserves B tier. And I know that might seem a little harsh, especially for those of us that kind of started the game with her like on the top list. But I think as far as what she does, she really doesn't stand up anymore. And it's weird to say that she's fallen that far, but I think the S tiers, the recent additions to the game, are so good that she kind of deserves this. She only really increases her technique gauge to herself. She doesn't really do it for anybody else because she's an adventurer, not a speed unit. I'm just going to stand on that. So I can't believe I made this mistake, but there is one more adventure, and some of you have already figured out what this is. That is, of course, Emid. Now, unfortunately, Emid is a unit that I don't personally own, so it's really hard for me to make a legitimate judgment call. I don't know why. She's just evaded me. For as long as she's been in the game, which is almost 6 months now, she's just flat evaded me. I don't know what to tell you on that one. So it's really hard for me to make a decision here. But as far as what she does, she's a lot like Haruhime. I think a little less potent, but also a little less squishy. So she doesn't do level boost per se, kind of like, you know, like Haruhime does. But she will increase strength and magic. She does a really good healing, and she has a death saving throw, which can be big time clutch. For that alone, and the fact that you see her all the time, I won't say all the time, frequently enough in PvP, it makes me believe that a lot of people have faith in her. Without any personal experience, it's really tough. But she is one of the newer units, and I believe that because a lot of people are putting her in PvP, I think she deserves a spot in the S tier. So, and I apologize I did miss her, but that is what that is. So let me know what you guys thought, as always, in the comments down below. Do you feel like I messed up on one of the ranks? Do you have something to say? Just keep it civil if you don't mind. But, you know, roast away just in a polite-ish manner is all I ask. And I'll see you guys in the comments. And for part 2, where we cover all the assists coming up very soon.